Midnight Express is a 1978 prison drama film directed by Alan Parker, produced by David Putnam and written by Oliver Stone, based on Billy Hayes's 1977 non-fiction book of the same name. While finishing up on his vacation in Istanbul, Turkey, American college student Billy Hayes, Brad Davis, is in his hotel room and straps several pounds of hashish, about 2 kilograms, to his body. Billy is at the airport, nervous at being caught smuggling, goes to the washroom to wet his face and attempt to relax himself, and makes his way with his girlfriend, Susan, Irene Miracle, through customs. Billy perspires heavily, noticed by the middle-aged, chain-smoking customs agent who checks his bag. After his bags are searched, both Billy and Susan board a shuttle bus to their plane. Billy smiles and is relieved, thinking he is out of danger. However, as the bus pulls up to the plane, he notices that a large detachment of armed police and soldiers have taken up positions just outside the plane. Unable to detach and discard the hashish, and sweating heavily, Billy is arrested on the spot when he is frisked by a young Turkish policeman and his comrades. Billy is taken away and back to security and searched. Afterward, the Turkish security chief of the airport makes Billy stand for several press photographs of him holding the confiscated drugs with the smiling customs officers and then slaps them around after Billy reveals more hash in his boots they didn't find. A shadowy American, whom Billy nicknames Tex for his thick Texan accent, arrives and accompanies Billy to a police station and translates for him. Billy claims he bought the hashish from a taxicab driver and offers to help police locate him in exchange for being released. Tex takes Billy downtown the next morning to the bazaar where he claims to have purchased the hashish and tells Billy that recent terrorist airline hijackings have made the Turks much more fanatical about airport security and that the potency or type of drug that Billy was caught with doesn't matter. Billy is at the restaurant that seems to be a popular place with young American hippies where the sale happened and tries to run from his security escort. He is quickly caught by Tex himself, whose previously friendly attitude suddenly changes for the worse as he is holding a gun to his head. During his first night in holding, Billy has his hair cut short and is put into a filthy cell by a trustee, Rivka, Paolo Bonacelli, whom refuses to give him a blanket for warmth because he's not selling any at the time, then sneaks out of his tiny cell and takes a blanket in storage. He is later rousted out of his cell by the trustee and taken to a large guard named Hamadou, Paul L. Smith, the chief of guards, who takes him to another filthy room, the basement, trusses Billy's ankles in the air and hits the soles of his feet repeatedly with his club for stealing the blanket. The next morning, a small group of prisoners, Jimmy, Randy Quaid, a towering and hot-tempered American, and Eric, a kindly Swede, get him on his feet and walking. They tell him his feet will continue to swell and his recovery will be longer if he doesn't move around. Jimmy was sentenced for attempting to rob a mosque and Eric was busted for smuggling about 100 grams of hash and given a 12-year sentence. Jimmy is quite sure Billy will receive a stiff sentence, but Eric remains optimistic that he just needs a good lawyer. Jimmy shows Billy around how to navigate the minefield of the prison and, being a foreigner, not to trust any of the Turks, especially the children there who rat out prisoners to Hamadou. The prison resembles an old barracks from the 1800s. Billy is introduced to Max. John Hurt is a bespectacled, introverted, unkempt, 30-something junkie uninterested in small talk that injects himself with gastro, a stomach medicine with codeine. Max has been in prison the longest for drug dealing, 7 years and counting. A few weeks later, Billy's father, Mike Kellen, arrives and embraces him, forgiving his mistake, and introduces him to Stanley Daniels, Michael Ensign, of the American consulate, and his requested lawyer Yesel to defend him. Their goal is to get bail for Billy and a fake passport to get him across to Greece to leave. During Billy's trial, the prosecutor makes a case against him for drug smuggling. The lead judge is sympathetic to Billy and gives him a 4-year sentence for drug possession. Billy and his father are devastated, but their Turkish lawyer insists it is a good result because the prosecutor wanted a life sentence. Over the next several months, Billy slowly adjusts to prison life. Jimmy gets stabbed in the behind for treating a Turkish prisoner badly during a volleyball game. Another time later, Billy and others witness the prison warden beat 4 of the young boys on their soles of their feet, believing them to have raped a new young inmate, with the warden's two pudgy sons looking on and him warning them about what happens if they ever break the law. In June of 1972, Billy meets with his lawyer Yesel again, with Yesel assuring him of convincing Turkish officials to lose his records before the High Court in Ankara can review his case for the right amount of money. Billy is bored and uninterested at Yesel's visit, feeling it's all empty promises. Jimmy shows Billy and Max blueprints to the prison of catacombs. They believe they can access them through a wall in the kitchen and go underneath or simply climbing over the wall. Max dismisses Jimmy's idea as foolish, and Billy does not want to risk trying to escape, fearing that if he's caught it will add time to his sentence. An angry Jimmy decides to go ahead with it himself, being caught and badly beaten with a leather strap by Hamadou and sent to the sanitarium. After almost 4 years in the prison, Billy is informed that his case will be reviewed again. Thinking he's being let go early for good behavior, Billy rushes to meet with Stanley Daniels, the representative from the U.S. ambassador's office in the Turkish capital city of Ankara. However, Daniels has bad news. The High Court in the Turkish capital of Ankara has heard a different argument from the prosecutor, who has appealed the 4-year term verdict, and is seeking to charge Billy with smuggling hashish and make an example of him. Since double jeopardy law does not exist in Turkey like it does in the U.S., any accused can be tried more than once for the same crime on appeal or should new evidence surface. Billy is given a minimum sentence of 30 years, with time already served, for smuggling of hashish. A saddened Billy sits in his cell with a sense of hopelessness that night, but now wants to go forward with Jimmy's original plan of escape. The stones used as walls in their section's kitchen are cemented in place with mortar that has weakened greatly in the dank conditions. Jimmy, Billy and Max discover 2 such stones and are able to remove them, finding a shaft behind them that leads to a system of flooded catacombs under the prison. The 3 of them spend 2 nights and hours searching for an escape route. However, once they do go underneath, it turns out the Turks have long since blocked off every tunnel. The 3 give up and replace the stones. Rivka finds their secret in the kitchen the next morning after their unsuccessful escape attempt and immediately tells Hamadou. Hamadou suspects Jimmy of being responsible after what happened the first time and drags him off for punishment again, and is never seen from then on. Billy and Max figure out a revenge scheme. They find Rivka's stash of hidden money and destroy it by burning part and boiling the other part. In retaliation, a raid is performed by Hamadou, and Rivka plays a charade with Hamadou and frames Max for hashish possession. Hamadou has Max dragged off for punishment like Jimmy was. Billy loses it after all he's been through and savagely attacks Rivka in the washroom, chasing and beating the traitor until he bites out the man's tongue out. Billy is taken away by guards, beaten, and sent to the prison's insane asylum. After 5 years, Billy is visited by Susan, who tells him that U.S. senators are trying to work on his case to get him out, pleads with him to put himself together and get out of there unless he wants to die, and passes him a photo album of his family and tells him it has a picture of his good friend, Mr. Franklin, from the bank. Susan, feeling devastated at Billy's horribly bedraggled state, also opens her blouse so Billy can masturbate. A guard takes him away, leaving Susan even more devastated. Billy goes into the filthy sanatorium washroom and inspects the album closely, finding numerous $100 bills hidden inside the cover lining totaling around $2,000 in cash. He passes by an almost dead Max to hold on and stay alive that he's leaving and will come back for him. Billy sees Hamadou taking a restraining belt off a now dead inmate and about to leave. He approaches Hamadou with part of the money and tries to bribe his longtime enemy to take him to the sanitarium. That Hamadou accepts Billy's bribe but drags Billy past the entrance to the sanitarium, to a large dressing room filled with guard uniforms and with pegs set into the walls. Hamadou beats Billy, yells about how he's fed up with him, and attempts to rape him when Billy suddenly rushes Hamadou and pushes him forcefully backwards. Hamadou, flailing and trying to regain his footing, slams into the wall, driving a clothes peg into the back of his head, dying instantly. Billy dresses himself in a guard's uniform and, reclaiming his money, walks through the prison unnoticed to the front door. As he walks down the stairs, another guard stops him and throws him the keys to the door, telling him, in Turkish, to remember to lock up when he checks out. A title card tells us that on the night of October 4, 1975, Billy was able to cross the Turkish border into Greece and flew home to the United States 3 weeks later. The final shots of the film before the closing credits show Billy reuniting with his family and Susan. In the original version, it was stated after having shown the movie to the Cannes Film Festival, there was a demand for exchange of prisoners in Turkey to be brought to America.